my burning desire, I wanted to replace his income because he was in a stressful job and didn't like what he was doing. And that stress came home and it, I wanted a different life for us. And I loved what I did, so I wasn't stressed with what I did. I loved the bookkeeping. So I said, all right, I'll just do more of this, and then he can quit his job and it'll be all good. And when the going got tough, I kept remembering why I was doing what I was doing and the reason for that. And it wasn't just the money. It wasn't just $1, because if it's just $1, then when the going gets tough, you'll say, you know what? I don't really need the money. We're doing all right. It's all right. We're fine, because money is just money. It's what you will get with that money, what you'll be able to provide for your children, your family, how it will change your lifestyle. That's the emotion. That's the burning. That's what keeps you going.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today we are doing another Q&A from the Successful Bookkeeper, Debbie Roberts, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Debbie, of course, is the co-author of E-Myth Bookkeeper. She is also the co-founder of Pure Bookkeeping, and she is one of the most friendly bookkeepers on the planet. Welcome back to the podcast, Debbie.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks very much. Lovely being here.
Yes. And Deb, you have been bookkeeping for a long time. A long time, but you're only, 27?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But why I mention that is you were 20 years as an employee, staff bookkeeper. You worked in all sorts of different industries, tons of experience, and then you decided to start your own business and then ramp that up and faced all sorts of challenges and then figured out how to actually, really the big turnaround for you is when you hired a business coach by the name of Peter Cook and read E-Myth, Michael Gerber's work on building a system-dependent business. And so you are definitely an authority on the planet when it comes to building a successful bookkeeping business, and you are really the character in the book I wrote, The Successful Bookkeeper, and that's the formula to building a six-figure business and beyond. And so today we've got more questions from our audience, from our listeners, and we're going to ask you Q&A and riff about them and give incredible value as you always do.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, let's get right into it. We have, first off, Carrie Coleman from Texas, and her question is what clients are looking for from a bookkeeper.
Yeah, I think firstly, clients want to be confident that you know what you're doing. When I was running my business, in fact, in the first 12 months, I was astounded by the amount of mess that I had to clean up, often left by inexperienced bookkeepers. So the people that just didn't know what they were doing and didn't try to find out whether they were doing it the right way or not. And it's absolutely not true that anyone can just know how to do the bookkeeping because you were good at maths at school or you worked in a bank or something like that. It's not bookkeeping is not intuitive. It is a learned skill. And you just have to go back to school, in inverted commas. To grow a successful business, you need to be confident that you can deliver the service the client expects. So I think it sounds like you're starting out, Carrie, and I would recommend, firstly, you've got to be part of a community where you can get information. And I would recommend joining one of the professional associations that are around the world. Obviously, you're in the US. I think it's, is it the ICB? In the US?
ICB USA, you got it, Deb.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So in Australia, we've got, and for any other listeners from around the world, in Australia, we recommend the Australian Bookkeepers Network. That was the organisation that I joined all those years ago, and that's where I got my information from. That's where I found out what I didn't know and the answers to that. They had a group forum there that you could post your questions. Being part of a community, the ICB is fantastic. In Canada, I think it's the IPBC, is that right?
That's right, Institute of Professional Bookkeepers of Canada.
Yep, excellent. Great organisations, really important. They find out from them if you're not qualified, and I know in Australia you actually have to be qualified in order to be a bookkeeper, but I know that's not a requirement in other countries at this point in time, but I would still recommend it. It's good for you because it will give you confidence that you do know what you're doing. It's a great marketing strategy as well. When you are meeting with prospects, you'll be able to say, I've got this qualification, I'm a member of this professional association. So it's you being more professional and doing what you need to do. And I think that's the start. That's a good place to start. I think also becoming a certified partner with your preferred software. So more learning required. Most of the online programs, to the best of my knowledge, I think Xero and QBO, they offer free certifications as far as I'm aware. So check them out as well. I think in this day and age, the role of the bookkeeper is what we do is bookkeeping, but the knowledge and the technology is just changing on a daily basis. And one of your jobs is to make sure you're ahead of the game. The client expects you to know the changes that have happened in the software. They expect you to know the changes that have happened in the regulations, in the tax laws that affect the bookkeeping. They expect that from you. So they are just the basics. So you've got to keep ahead of the game. And being a member of a professional association, they will make sure that they give you the information that you need to make sure you're ahead of the game.
I think it's brilliant, Deb, in terms of just the certification coming from, you're going to learn a whole bunch of stuff, but at the very, very core, it's your confidence as a bookkeeper. And what we know about a successful bookkeeper is that it's all about your mindset.
Yeah.
The more you believe in yourself, the more you believe in what you do, the more you value yourself and value what you do, the more you can put that into your business and it will show up. So people look at these sorts of things as a cost, right? Oh, I've got to pay for my certification. I got to pay for my annual dues. And even if you didn't participate at all and you just got the certification, in my belief, in my opinion, having that pays for itself an immeasurable amount from just the confidence. And I know in another episode with you, we talked about your conversion rates when your confidence grew and you did a whole bunch of stuff. We were talking about your sales presentation and making sure that's all prepared. But this is one of those pieces as well that it will lead to your own confidence. And when you have confidence, your conversions go up, you can charge more. And that's exactly. What's that worth, right? You could pay for, in one client acquisition, you could pay for 10 years of the cost of certification.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a great advice, Deb. Let's jump into another question. Let's go to Samantha Bruton from California. Wonderful California on the West Coast. I love California. It's like Australia, not as beautiful as Australia, but very close.
Yeah, we want to get there one day.
Yes, absolutely. And all the listeners will want to go to Australia because beautiful place. Client onboarding and retention. And Samantha's fear is leaving a stable and secure job for self-employment.
Yes. This was a big one for me. And I think typically, again, and using me as an example, if you like, most bookkeepers are conservative, I guess you'd say, as in not big risk takers. And let's face it, you've got to be able to pay the bills. So the way I managed the transition from my full-time work to, well, actually it was more part-time. It was school hours. I was working 5 days a week, but they were school hours. So, but for me, I then came home and did my second job, which was with my kids and all the after-school activities. So the way I transitioned, I needed to maintain that. And also because I didn't have confidence, I didn't know if I'd actually be any good at running my business or even good at bookkeeping, let alone I didn't even think about what it would take to run a business. But I was concerned that I wasn't going to be good enough. Didn't have the necessary skills to transition from an employee to bookkeeping for small business. So that was a big concern, and because I wasn't a big risk taker, I wasn't going to just jump and say, yes, goodbye everyone, I'm going to quit my job and then start getting clients. So what I did was told family, friends, everyone that I knew that I was open for business, but I was only available to work nights and weekends. So there was no on-site client work, which typically would mean then that these were smaller clients. In a previous episode, I talked about the type of clients that are good to aim for, good to target when you're starting out. And I spoke about tradies and so carpenters, electricians, because typically they don't have an office and they're happy for you to work from home. And they don't care what hours you work either. They just want the job done and then they get it back and everything's all nice and tidy and everything's filed and lodged that needs to be done. So I took on those types of clients and service-based clients as well. Again, people that didn't have an office or they had a home office and they were happy for me to work from home. And I worked nights and weekends. And that was hard. I mean, it was difficult to do with 3 children, school-age children, working basically during the day, caring for them and doing what mothers do at after school and before school. And then when they went to bed, I would do my work. So I would, from 7:30 till whenever, I would be in my home office doing the work. So I was working nights and weekends. I still have a very supportive husband who was able to, fill in the gaps whenever I wasn't available. But it was not easy, but it was something that I really wanted to do. It was that I wanted to work for myself. I believed that was a better future for me and my family, and I was committed to it. I was 10 out of 10 committed to it. So that meant doing the hard work. There was no two ways about it. It was either that or quit my job, and I wasn't prepared to take that risk. And that took about 12 months, maybe a little bit more, for me to replace the income. So that was my goal, to replace my income from my day job. And I did that because I was charging more, of course, than what I was getting paid as an employee. That took me about 12 months to accumulate enough clients where I could do that. And I still remember to this day what a exhilarating feeling and how proud I was of myself of resigning when I put in my resignation. I'd actually achieved what I set out to do. It was such an amazing feeling. So that's how I would recommend that you transition. You've got to be prepared to do the hard work though, and work nights and weekends and do whatever it takes as quickly as possible so that you can replace that day job. The other piece of advice that I would give, if you are working full-time, then you may be in a position to negotiate reducing your hours with your employer. If you're working full-time, perhaps they would be happy for you to drop to 4 days a week. That will give you some more space to that 1 day a week. You can do your marketing, maybe work on site with a client, go to networking events. It would be easier for you if you can negotiate with them to drop a day a week.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's an interesting, you were saying just the formula that you created in order to get it done, right? If one looks at their life today and there's no space for anything else. Like nobody has extra space, right? So there has to be a formula created to make the space and make it work. And so it's going to be different for every single person. But in our last Q&A episode, Deb, we talked about vision. And so it's that, you had this vision, you created a goal, you really wanted it. You had a big why as to why you wanted it. And it was real for you. And then you put together a formula to make it happen, and you implemented on that formula. And so that all takes time, and it takes preparation and then execution on it. But you're either going to have a formula for your success, or you're going to have a formula for no success, which is just status quo. It's not like a bad thing. There's no bad thing here. However, that's the big question, is what's going to be for the listeners, what's going to be your formula to make it work? Maybe it's less TV. Maybe it's in the mornings. Maybe it's in the evenings. Everybody has a different situation that they've got to deal with. But if you figure out the formula and you get committed to the formula, it will work. You will be able to do it.
You'll make it work. And the reason it's so important to have a big enough vision is because when the going gets tough, so when you're tired, when things go wrong, which they will do, when bad things happen, if all you want is money, so if you just say, oh yeah, I want this to turn over $100,000 in the next 12 months. And if you don't attach an emotion to that, why do you want to turn over $100,000? Why do you want to generate that income? It's not just about the money. What is that going to do for you and your family or your life? What is your life going to be like? Are you going to be able to send your children to the best schools in the area? Are you going to go on an overseas trip? In my burning desire after my initial goal of replacing my income was I wanted to replace my husband's income. So that wasn't going to happen in 12 months, and it didn't happen in 12 months. That took another 10 years, I think, for me to achieve that goal. But my burning desire, I wanted to replace his income because he was in a stressful job and didn't like what he was doing. And that stress came home, and it, I wanted a different life for us. And I loved what I did, so I wasn't stressed with what I did. I loved the bookkeeping. So I said, all right, I'll just do more of this, and then he can quit his job and it'll be all good. And when the going got tough, I kept remembering why I was doing what I was doing and the reason for that. And it wasn't just the money. It wasn't just $1, because if it's just $1, then when the going gets tough, you'll say, you know what? I don't really need the money. We're doing all right. It's all right. We're fine, because money's just money. It's what you will get with that money, what you'll be able to provide for your children, your family, how it will change your lifestyle. That's the emotion. That's the burning. That's what keeps you going.
Beautiful. I was literally just read a paragraph in the chapter of one of Paul Coelho's books. Are you familiar with Paul Coelho? He wrote, this one's called The Road to Santiago. And he also wrote, now I'm going to forget I'm going to have to Google search it maybe while you're talking on the next question so we come back to it. But I'm almost... I should actually maybe not tell the spoiler alert. If you're reading The Road to Santiago, please plug your ears, turn off the podcast, fast forward. But the story is about him searching for his sword. And the sword, it's a metaphor for, the answers to life, the power of life. And so he's walking this road to Santiago to discover it. And it's all about finding the sword. I want to find my sword. I want to take it to the next level. I want to be more enlightened. I want transformation. I want, Shangri-La, right? And the point of finding, you can't find your sword until you realize that it's not about finding the sword, that you will never find the sword unless you determine what the sword is for. And that's what you've said, Deb, is that it's not about the money. It's what's that money for? What's the business for? What's the outcome that if this is come to fruition, what will that be for? So is it to have a better life for your family? Is it to be closer to your faith? Is it to be making a difference for people in the world? That's where power exists in all of our journey. So I just love that you said that, because I literally got that to that point in the book. I'm like, yeah, wow, powerful.
Excellent. I
got to find this. He's wrote the book he wrote that he's famous for. I will remember it and we'll come back to it. I think that it's worth mentioning, Deb, that the whole concept and why you created Pure Bookkeeping was to provide bookkeepers with the same tools and process that you spent all those years developing and building, so that they wouldn't have to figure out that, but instead figure out how to just implement it in their own. And it's not even figuring out. It's implementation versus invention. Yes. And so I love the story of one of our clients, Mira Salter. I had a conversation, and, when she became a Pure Bookkeeping licensee, and we had a conversation, she said, I want to grow this, I want a 6-figure business. And she told me where she was at. We had a 30-minute call, and every licensee, it's our kickoff call, and we do a bit of coaching and figure out really what's it for, where you're trying to get to, and create a big why, and make sure that their mindset's in the right place, and away they go. And so we simply talked about two things. Number one was the rates that she was charging. She was not charging enough, and I know we've tackled that in other episodes. The other was, a niche. What area would she want to go out and do? And she didn't know what it was at the time. Well, about 8 months later, I saw her at an association event. It was the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers of Canada in Vancouver. And I said, Mira, how's it going? She's like, it's great. It's like, yeah, how things, yeah, great. Okay, a big hug. And how's everything going? Oh, great. And she was about to, okay, well, we'll see you around, I'm like, well, but Mira, like, how are things going? I want to know, It was the first time I'd ever met her, because she's from the middle of Canada, 2,000 kilometers away in Manitoba, in a little town outside of Winnipeg, population 3,500. So she's one of these people that is in a small community. And she said, I said, she says, great. I just hit 75,000 in revenue. I said, that's great. Wow, that's really, really good. And I said, remind me where you were when you started again. She goes, I was startup. I had done $2,500 in revenue. So in less than 8 months or 9 months, somewhere in around there, she did just over 70,000 in revenue. I said, how did you do it? She said, you know what? I put up my prices and I niched. I only work with nonprofits and parishes. Parishes are like churches, and or they're not like churches, they are churches. And that's it. She went out, she networked, she door knocked, she got to know all the people, and she, specialized in that, and then just went all over the land that was close to her and told the world that that's what she did, and her business just flourished. And so, when we're talking when we're talking about time management, and when we're talking about leaving a stable and secure job, right? And the formula for, I think that really is the formula. One of the big formulas of Pure Bookkeeping is just simply being able to implement and do it.
Yes, absolutely. And she would have done a lot of, it's one thing to have a system, but you've still got to have the courage to use it. And she would have, the marketing, and because we talk about bookkeepers not wanting to do the marketing and things like that. But when you've got a big enough vision, you'll go out and do that. You'll go out and speak to people, because you know that this is what you need to do. This is one of the hard things that you need to do.
Yes.
She would have done a lot of that.
Absolutely. She had a clear vision. She knew where she wanted to go. She had a big why. And you know what? She was radiating with at the conference. She was a person that was proud of what she did. She was passionate about what she did. She was serious about being successful. And it's just so wonderful to see people going off and building their businesses and living their dreams.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think we have time for one more question, and this question is from Ann Hodgkins. She is from North Carolina, and her question is around value pricing, if not already discussed, is what she said here, and marketing door knocking. Is one of her biggest concerns.
Yes. The door knocking one I'll start off with. The value pricing is a huge subject, and I'll explain the principles of it. But the door knocking is one of the most terrifying things that a bookkeeper could. In fact, most people don't like the whole idea of door knocking. And it's because we associate it with when people come to us trying to sell things. What do we call them? They're when they go into shops. Yeah, those sorts of things. When they knock on doors and they're trying to sell lollies or
salespeople.
Salespeople. Yeah, we don't like that. It's something that the bookkeepers in particular don't like. But there is an easier way. I'm going to explain an easier way for you to do that. So if you've got some on-site clients or wherever your clients are located, and if you go there and visit them and do the work, what I recommend is that you visit 2 or 3 businesses. Each time you go there, visit 2 or 3 businesses around that client. So you're not saying, I'm going to do door knocking today, and then you go out and go around to businesses and to people that you don't know. What you're doing is when you're doing the work for your client, you go and visit 2 or 3 other businesses, and when you knock on their doors, you introduce yourself and you say, hi, I'm doing the bookkeeping for so-and-so just down the road, and I was wondering who was looking after your bookkeeping for you. And that's all you do. It's actually not that hard and much more palatable, I think, for bookkeepers. The other thing is, at one of our seminars that we did, we had a bookkeeper contact me afterwards and say she put this into practice. She was having coffee at a coffee shop, and this is a coffee shop that she often went to have her morning coffee. And she was thinking, all right, I need to be brave. I've got to go up to that person. I know his name, and we say hello, but he was to ask him about his bookkeeping. Debbie said I need to do this, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to be brave and I'll do it. And so when she was paying for a coffee, she said, oh, look, by the way, Bob, you may not be aware, but I'm a bookkeeper, and I was just wondering who looks after your bookkeeping for you. Are you happy about that? Is that working for you? And he basically said, thank God you're here, and wrapped his arms around her and said, no, it's not going okay. I really need some help with that. And what was amazing about this story is that this is in a shop, block. There was a bunch of shops on either side of him, is that there was about 3 doors down or in the same block of shops was a bookkeeper who had a shop front with bookkeeper all over it and that was her business, and he didn't even know she was there. Mm. And that bookkeeper had never gone in to sit to him to say, oh, Bob, I'm just a couple of doors down. Who's looking after your bookkeeping? So it was quite an incredible thing that she got this business when this bookkeeper who had a shop front didn't even go in to see him. So it doesn't have to be that hard. Think of simple ways of doing it, doing the door knocking. That doesn't mean you're cold calling, if you like.
I love it, Deb. And I think as human beings, a lot of the times we fall into the routine of life and we sort of just think that everything is the way that it is, and we've got our head down and we're just plowing through things. There's a wonderful show when I was growing up. It was called The Friendly Giant. And I think in North America, all North Americans hopefully would have seen it. I think it actually might have been a Canadian show. So there you go. But there was this saying in the show, and it said, and it would open up and it would go, look up, look way up. And I think the idea of it is like, lift up your head and look around. The whole world is there for us. If we only just looked up, and like that story of someone just down the hall, like literally everything we want in life is literally just look up and it's just out there, right there. If only you go and ask and see and, turn over a couple of rocks for it. Deb, as you were speaking, I did say I would go and search the author, Paul Coelho. Oh, yes. And so I searched it real quickly because I wanted to get the title of that book, and I butchered the name of the book I'm reading. It's actually The Pilgrimage, but it is the story of the road to Santiago. This character is walking along it. But I'm going to read a couple of quotes because as you said something, you said, be brave. And right there on the page, if you Google Paul Coelho, it's 3 quotes come up. And I just think it's the universe conspiring here for us to give us some wonderful, inspirational quotes to go alongside of this Q&A session. And the quote is, "Be brave, take risks, nothing can substitute experience." And this is a quote by Paul Coelho. And then the other two quotes, "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it."
Yes.
Which is very apropos to what we're talking about with this question. And the third quote that comes up, which is even more right on mark. "Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dream."
Beautiful, powerful.
So have like Paul Coelho coming all the way from Brazil, his message and his energy. He's a wonderful author, and he's made such a difference for millions of people around the world. His number one book is called The Alchemist, written in 1988. If you haven't read it, it's a beautiful book about life and life's journey and the magic and wonder of life. And that's some nice quotes to maybe cap off our Q&A session on this episode.
And that gave me goosebumps, by the way, Michael, when you said those quotes. They were absolutely very powerful. I completely, I think I'll put them in my blog post. I think I'm sure I'll be able to blog something about that. That was fabulous. We did mention value pricing, but there may not be enough time to cover that in this episode. So watch out for the next one, and I'll cover it there.
Oh, cliffhanger. You got to come back for another one because it's a big topic. So we'll save that one for the next episode. Deb, it's been wonderful again having you. I know you're super busy. You're helping bookkeepers all over the world, and it sure makes a difference for us to have you on the show and to share all of your experience and the things that you've done, and it does make a big difference for us.
Thank you, Michael. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes. Well, that wraps another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. And to learn more about today's wonderful guest, please go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.